The cake wasn't even big. It was the cheapest one I could find, vanilla with blue frosting and tiny plastic balloons on top. I remember staring at it in the store freezer for a long time, wondering if it would be enough to make him smile. My son had just turned 7. He didn't ask for gifts. He never did. He just wanted a cake. We'd been living with my parents for 3 months after losing my apartment. I'd been saving every paycheck from my job at the diner, counting bills in an envelope I hid inside an old cereal box. It wasn't much, maybe $600, but it was survival. Gas, shoes for my son, maybe enough to move into a tiny room again. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video. Then my mom found the envelope. I came home that evening still in my work uniform, smelling like grease and coffee. She was sitting at the kitchen table, waving the money in her hand like a flag. "You were really going to hide this from family?" she said. "It's not hiding," I said carefully. "It's my savings, for rent." She laughed, a low, sharp sound. "For rent? Your sister's going to Mexico next week. You should help her. Family helps family." "I've helped her enough," I said quietly. "I'm not giving her my rent money." Her smile disappeared. "You think you're better than us now? Because you work at some diner?" I looked down at the cake box in my hands. "It's my son's birthday. I just wanted to do something nice for him." My dad's voice came from the living room. "You're not going to guilt trip your mother. Give her the money and stop acting like you're special." "I'm not acting special," I said. "I'm just tired of paying for everyone else's fun." That's when she stood up, slow, deliberate. Her eyes were cold, not angry, just calculating. "You're not part of this family until you learn respect." I turned toward the door, clutching the cake. Then I guess I'm not part of it. The last thing I remember before it happened was the sound of her footsteps. Quick, sudden. Then pain. White hot and shocking. She hit me so hard across the face that my head slammed against the refrigerator. I heard a crunch and felt warmth spilling over my lip. The cake dropped to the floor, frosting splattering across the tiles. My son screamed from the hallway. Mom didn't even flinch. She pointed at me, breathing hard. "Look at you," she hissed. "Ungrateful trash. You think you can just walk out? You owe us everything." Dad came in and grabbed my arm. "Stop crying, you always make things worse." I pressed my hand to my face. It came away red. My nose felt crooked, wrong. The room was spinning and my son clung to my leg, crying into my jeans. "Mom, please stop," he begged. She looked at him and for a second, I thought I saw something like guilt, but it vanished just as fast. "If she learned how to listen," she said, "none of this would have happened." I took my son's hand and walked out the front door barefoot. I didn't even grab my shoes. The night air burned my skin and my breath came in sharp, uneven bursts. We walked down the block until the house disappeared behind the trees. My son kept looking back, clutching my arm. "Are we in trouble?" he whispered. "No, baby," I said softly, even though my voice shook. "Not anymore." We sat at the park by the gas station under the yellow streetlight. I wiped my face with my sleeve, trying not to let him see the blood. He looked at the smashed cake box in my hands. The frosting was ruined, but one small corner was still untouched. He reached out, scooped a bit with his finger, and smiled. "It still tastes good," he said quietly. That broke me. I laughed through tears, hugging him so tightly he squealed. I'd lost my home, my savings, and maybe my pride, but I still had him. When the bleeding stopped, I called my mom's number from a payphone. She didn't even sound concerned. "You done being dramatic?" she asked. "My nose is broken," I said flatly. "You shouldn't have disrespected me," she said, "and don't come back until you learn to behave." I hung up. That night, we stayed at the back of the diner where I worked. My manager, a quiet man named George, found us when he came in early. He didn't ask questions, just handed me ice and said, "You're not going back there, right?" I shook my head. "Not this time." But I didn't tell him what I was really thinking. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't planning on surviving their cruelty. I was planning on ending it, permanently, in a way they'd never see coming. They thought breaking me meant control. But they forgot something. Pain is temporary. Humiliation fades. But a mother's memory of the day her child walked away bleeding and never looked back lasts forever. And I was about to make sure they felt that silence echo every single day. The following days blurred together, exhaustion mixed with disbelief, and the pain in my face was nothing compared to the sting in my chest. Every time I caught my reflection in the diner's window, the bruise across my nose reminded me what love looked like in that house. My coworkers didn't ask what happened. They just looked at me differently, like they finally saw what I'd been hiding for years. My son was quiet too. He didn't ask when we were going home. He just followed me around, always holding the hem of my jacket like I might disappear if he let go. One night, as I counted my tips, he whispered, "Grandma doesn't like us, does she?" I froze. My throat tightened. "No, baby," I said. "She doesn't understand us." He looked up at me with those wide eyes. "Then why do we live there?" I didn't have an answer. The truth was, I didn't know how to escape her orbit. She'd trained me my whole life to believe I was incapable, that everything I had was borrowed from her grace. I worked, I saved, I planned, but somehow every step forward ended with me crawling back to her doorstep, begging for peace. This time was supposed to be different, and yet, even after what she did, a part of me still waited for her to call, to say she was sorry, to act like a mother. That call never came. Instead, my sister posted photos online, palm trees, cocktails, tanned skin, her laughter frozen midair with the caption, "Finally free." My stomach turned when I saw the credit card company's name under the post, the one linked to my account. Mom had used my savings and my credit card. That was the moment I broke. Not the punch, not the blood, not the humiliation. It was the realization that they'd not only stolen from me, they'd stolen my son's childhood, his safety, his peace. I looked at him that night, sleeping on the diner's old couch, a tiny cut on his cheek where my mom's ring had hit him when she swung. He'd never told me. He didn't want to make me sad. I sat there for hours, watching him breathe, my hands trembling. For years, I'd let her break me in small ways. My confidence, my voice, my name. But this time, she'd done something different. She'd hit me where I was weakest, and somehow that made me stronger. The next morning, I went to the police station. The officer at the desk looked up. "Can I help you?" "Yes," I said. "I need to file an assault report." He blinked. "Against who?" "My mother." He hesitated like he didn't believe me. I gave my statement. Every word, every bruise, every detail. I showed him the medical form the diner manager had helped me fill out. He took photos, wrote everything down, and asked, "Do you want to press charges?" I paused. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But something in me whispered that jail wouldn't fix her. It would just make her look like the victim again. And me, the ungrateful daughter. "No," I said finally. "I just want it on record. So next time, no one can say they didn't know." He nodded. "You sure?" "Very." When I left, the air felt different, lighter somehow, like I'd broken the first link in a chain that had been choking me for years. I found a small one-bedroom apartment that same week. The rent was high, but the landlord agreed to let me pay weekly. My son helped me paint the walls, his laughter echoing in the emptiness. We had no furniture, no fridge, not even a real bed. But when I turned the lights on, it felt like the first time I'd ever owned something that was mine. Mom called once after that. "Your sister said you've been spreading lies," she said flatly. "I haven't said a word," I replied. "But you did break my nose. You can't hide that." She scoffed. "I told people you tripped. No one believes you anyway. You've always been dramatic." I smiled. "Maybe, but this time, I'm not staying quiet." There was a pause. That same sharp inhale she used to do before striking. "You think you can survive without us? You'll come crawling back like always." "No," I said softly. "You'll come looking for me." And for the first time in my life, I hung up before she did. That night, I lay next to my son. the room still smelling faintly of paint. He rested his head on my arm and whispered, "Can we have cake next year too?" I smiled, my hand brushing through his hair. "Next year, baby," I said. "We'll buy the biggest one they've got." But in the back of my mind, I was already planning something else. Something bigger than cake, something colder than forgiveness, because I wasn't just going to move on. I was going to make sure that every dollar she took, every lie she told, and every bruise she left behind turned into a weight she'd never stop feeling. And this time, she wouldn't see it coming. They thought the worst thing I could ever do was leave. They were wrong. I kept my head down for months, working double shifts, saving every tip, learning everything about baking, and running a tiny business from George at the diner. I practiced recipes on scraps of paper and sticky notepads, tested frosting at midnight while my son slept on the couch, and learned how to take a small idea and make it steady. When I opened the little shop, it was not a life-changing moment, just flour on my apron and a rental sign on the window. People came because the cake tasted honest. Parents brought kids. A teacher ordered cupcakes for class. A pastor asked for a tray for a funeral luncheon. Word moved in the only honest way it knew how, slowly, from hand to hand. My mother watched it happen from the other side of town, I heard, because her neighbor wouldn't stop praising the lemon tarts. Danielle posted pictures of her beach dinners and drank while the comments about my new place kept coming. She sent messages, soft, calculating at first. "Can we stop by? Just for a coffee?" I never answered. Then one Friday, 2 weeks before my son's birthday, the company that handled events for Danielle's office called. Their usual caterer had canceled. They were desperate. The event was small, a send-off luncheon for a coworker, but they needed something affordable and quick. I got the request through our catering inbox. The woman on the phone had the right tone of business and the wrong idea of what family meant. When I read the order, my hands did not tremble. It listed dishes they'd eaten at my parents' anniversary, items my mother always bragged about. It included a line that made my chest ache. "Special dessert requested by Mrs. L. for family celebration." The address was a block away from the house that used to smell like bleach and entitlement. I wrote back with a polite quote and a delivery time. Then I added terms, clear, professional, impossible to misread. I required payment up, front, no exceptions. I required a signed agreement that accepted our cancellation policy. I required the contact name be the person who ordered. No proxies accepted. They called. Danielle begged. Mom called. She used that voice, the one that used to make neighbors nod and sign sympathy cards. "We always supported you," she said. "We paid for your training." She tried to bend the words into guilt. I quoted the price again. I reminded her of the policies. I asked for the deposit. They could not produce it. The credit card on file was over the limit. The corporate account that had once been used to hide my money had inexplicably hit a freeze for unpaid invoices, an accounting oversight they'd ignored because someone else always fixed it for them. My quiet little shop had never been about revenge, but I knew how to run one like a machine. No credit, no catering. They stood on the other side of the line and shouted for favors for the family discount. I listened, and then I typed one sentence into our chat. "Deposit not received, order canceled." Then I closed the laptop and walked out to the bench where my son was drawing with chalk. After that, the invitations stopped coming. My mother's name no longer opened doors, my father's voice no longer smoothed over trouble. People who once took them at face value began to call me for small things: a birthday cake, a tray for a funeral, a box of rolls for a school event. They came without the sideways looks, with gratitude that felt, finally, like currency I could trade. I never called them to gloat. I never posted anything online. I let the everyday economy do the work for me. Their calls unanswered, their requests politely declined, their reliance on the same town that now knew me for something real. One evening, my phone buzzed with a private number. I glanced at it and let it ring out in the empty kitchen. My son laughed at a cartoon in the corner. I washed a pan, humming to myself, feeling the normal rhythm of a life rebuilt by small, steady choices. When the ringing stopped, the silence that followed was not empty. It was full. It was mine. Please subscribe to our channel and tell us in comments from where are you watching this video.